Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archive classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show, and welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and welcome to Walk on Wednesday. Walk on Wednesday is the day where we pick somebody in our audience that we think is a little interesting, sort of a interesting character, and we drag them to the center stage and spend 5 minutes just introducing him to everybody. And today we have a special guest, Jerome Romero, Sean Murphy, aka the Vegan Trucker, aka Trucks. Welcome to the show, Trucks.
Hi, how's it going? Great to be here.
Vegan Trucker is also famous for randomly showing up when I'm on location.
Sneaking up.
I think he's maybe tracked my vehicle because
he's got one of those things on it. They put it underneath.
Hate me at the truck stop.
Trucker, what's your story? Where did you come from? Like we feel like we're old friends here, but I really just know you from the show.
Right.
You don't live that far from me. He's been to the farm a bunch. What's your story, man?
It really started last year, July 2019. I was driving across the country, listening to an audiobook by John Joseph, and there was this big part about the Krishnas, and it spoke to me. I had to check this out a little bit more. And then I had also listened to Toby Morse's podcast, and you were on it, and Parmananda was on it, and you guys were all talking about Krishna consciousness, and I was like, what is this? All
right, so a side note for civilians. He's mentioned a bunch of hardcore stuff. Like Mara might be like, "What the heck is he talking about?" This is all from the music scene. So from my previous life when I was a singer of a band, and he's mentioning other podcasts and musicians, and Parmananda Prabhu, who's on the podcast, who's our guitar player. So so that was your in. And then what? You're trucking, cross Route 80, go Interstate 80. Now what?
Then you popped up into my suggestions on Instagram.
Thank you, so Instagram.
I'm like, hey, I just listened to that guy on the podcast. Like, I'll follow him. And that's when you were doing the Super Soul Sacred Sangha, and you would stream it on Instagram Live as well as Zoom.
Mara, that was pretty smart.
Yeah. Was Mara's idea?
How did we do that?
It was your Insta story.
Yeah,
it was my Instagram Live, and we'd get like thousands of people watching that.
Yeah. But we got like Arumar is also here thanks to Instagram Live.
I think a lot of people. Dr. Louis came that way.
Yeah.
What did you just hold it? Oh wait, Nancy Rothman too.
She's getting a thumbs up. Wow.
All right, so wait, Sega. Okay, wait, everybody did it.
Why aren't we doing this anymore?
Mara, why did we ever? Mara, would you just hold the camera? Mara used to come. For those who don't know, Mara used to be at my doorstep every day, but she only lived like 15 minutes away. And so then Mara bought a house without my permission.
I still came. It's just this whole,
You only live like
pandemic
20
thing.
minutes away now, right? Or how far away
It's
are
like
you?
30.
It's like
30,
30.
okay.
It's like 30. But she said,
Alright.
"Look, I'm getting this house, but I'm still making a dedication to come every day." And so you must have just held that camera the entire time or set it up.
Yeah, remember you used to get some of those, people would send you actually those like little mini tripod things for your phone because it was
And you
so
would knock them
shaky.
over.
Yeah,
Have
always.
propped up on a box.
That was a little amateur. We're still kind of amateur, but that was very
we were
amateur.
It was cute.
Yeah.
Okay, and then trucks, and then and that was it. And then you started listening live every day.
Yeah, I got sucked in. I messaged you out of the blue.
Did I write back?
Yeah, it was a very blunt way too. Not a way I would write to you now. I didn't know you.
You were blunt, or I was blunt.
I was blunt.
Okay. I'm pretty blunt.
Yeah, and you were just like, I was like, yeah, I want to join your Zoom. Let me in. What do I do? And you just sent me into the codes, or maybe Mara did. I don't really remember. So yeah, then I started watching every day on Zoom.
Here's the big question.
Why?
You've been doing it every day.
Why?
How has it affected you? If you could look back from where you were to where you are now, that was about a year and a half ago or a year ago, or
certainly feel like I'm in a much better place, especially spiritually. I had no spirituality before this, really, other than being raised Roman Catholic, but not really doing anything with that for the greater part of at least 20 years. It's grounded me. It's made me go within to see how I could be a better person. Just the whole trajectory of my life has changed because of this. The way I deal with people, the way I talk to my family, my friends, the way I just view everything. It's beautiful. It's great.
You're a beautiful man, Chucks.
Did you just celebrate your anniversary yesterday or something like that?
Yeah, yesterday was my 7-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Marriage with my wife. Thank you.
Congratulations to your wife. What's your wife's name?
Frederica.
Frederica.
Frederica. She's been very supportive of me.
Good.
I think she's pretty used to it by now. She was a little weirded out out of nowhere. I'm just like, hey, there's this blue guy that I'm kind of digging right now, and I got these beads, and I'm gonna walk around and chant on these beads and wrap this blanket around me.
He does have a little sika on his head too, if you could see.
Yeah.
He's trying to grow a sika. It's hard when you're starting. If you got like Bob Healy's hair, you can make a giant big one. But if you got a bald head, then you got like a little hamburger there, a little veggie burger on your head.
That's what's going on right now. When I first got into this, I had the long hair. I should have just shaved around it.
Oh man, you blew it. You could have been an established, beautiful sika right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for being with us this whole time.
Thank you.
I'm always so happy to see trucks here.
Yeah, trucking around.
The best part of waking up.
Thanks, Prabhu. All right, and let's. What do you say we dive into the sweet honey pot, Kaustubha?
Well, I've shared what I thought about that metaphor that you used, but okay. If you're
sweet, well, it's sweet like honey. It's a pot. It's a container.
It's not a pot, but
you can't get it anywhere.
Okay.
It's a vessel of nectar.
That I'll accept.
Okay.
Why did you just say it like that?
It's a vessel. It doesn't sound as good. Jump into the vessel of nectar.
Yeah, okay. I agree. It's not that good either, but.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Tamurandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Madatamnena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Anyway, had another weird thing. I was in the co-op yesterday and I ran into a new guy. Where is he?
I forgot his name though.
I forgot his name. Richard O. And he's in here somewhere.
Richard Ornstein.
Richard Ornstein. I was in the co-op yesterday, Mara, and was talking out loud to somebody, to Stephanie, and then all of a sudden, well-dressed, good-looking man comes up to me and goes, Raghunath, I'm a Zoomer. I'm on the show every morning. I was like, you're kidding me. This is so weird in our hometown. I was like, how the heck? It was just another weird thing. You never know who's out there. So, Richard O. Good to have
Welcome,
you.
Richard O.
Welcome, Richard O. Some people lay low. There he is, Richard O. Good morning to you, sir. We're going to hang. He's going to be my new buddy up here.
That's cool.
You got to meet.
That means you're going to put him to work on your farm?
Huh?
That means you put him to work on your farm?
Put him to work. It's like, it's everybody up here. We just do this. We chop things. We burn things. We rake things. He's got to meet the crew. He's got to meet Tom Essig, Papa Tony, the whole posse.
Before long, he's going to be eating Mara's burritos and vegan sushi and all that.
Yeah, we'll get him in this party.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. Oh, so we are in
Great part of the Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam, Canto 2, text
Chapter
5, Cause of All Causes, text 32. We're in. Narda, Narda, best of the transcendentalists. This is Lord Brahma speaking.
Mhm.
Best of the transcendentalists. The forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, the senses, the mind, and the modes of nature, are not assembled.
All right. Should we discuss this a bit?
Whatever you think. I can burn through all these, or we can break it apart.
Let's not burn yet.
All right.
Let's stick with this. So Narda's, he's going through a list of things, and maybe they sound kind of random, but they're actually very specific. He says there's the elements. There's a philosophy coming out of the yoga literature called Sankya, right? A way of analyzing life, existence. And Sankya means to count. And you count the material elements. You count the ingredients that this world is made out of. And then you realize that I can observe those ingredients, so I must be separate from them. And it's just kind of a way, it's a path towards self-realization, to understanding the soul. And so when he says here the elements, that means earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? The Mahabhutas. You with me, Raghu?
I'm
you
right
find this
with
boring.
you. I'm like practically on your shoulders.
Okay. And then so he says the elements, then he says the senses. Now, when he says the senses, that means more than when we say senses, we mean the nose, the sense of smell, taste, touch, form, and sound, like that. Or the organs that perceive them. So, but when you say this from the yogic philosophy, it means, when you say the senses, it means the nose, the tongue, the eyes, the skin, the ear.
Mm.
It also means the sense objects, smell, taste, form, touch, and sound.
Mm.
And it also includes what we don't include, which is the mind as the sixth sense. And also the senses of action, which they list as voice, hands, legs, anus, genitals, right? Those things that we do things with, we move, we grip, etc. Altogether, those 16 elements are called the senses. You add to them earth, water, fire, air, and ether, you're up to 21, right? Then here it mentioned the mind, and then it mentioned the modes of nature. The modes of nature are part of what is called pradhana, or like this big collection of material stuff. You could say that everything's being made out of. And there's also the ahankar and the buddhi, the ego and the intellect, which I think here they're including with the mind. All that equipment is one way of analyzing this material world. Those are the material ingredients. And what is that? What is that? That is our body and what our body tries to enjoy, right? So this verse was saying that, O Narada, best of the transcendents, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. So just like you build a car, right? You need to have the wheels, and you need to have the engine and the motor and the axles and all of that. And then you can put together a car, and then a human being could enter into that car and drive it.
So Sankya is really the study of the entire vehicle. And in studying, I'm just getting this little download right now.
Okay.
In studying the carburetor, the tires, the crankshaft, and you're going through everything to figure out what is making this vehicle go. Well, the engine makes it go, and the fuel and the carburetor. And then after you're putting this all together, you're like, actually, there's a being in this car that's making this go. I've analyzed everything, and it in itself does not make the vehicle go until we get that driver in there. So what it is
that's right.
Sort of cutting,
The car's dead until the driver steps in.
The car's dead until the driver. So by studying what we are not, it leaves us with one thing, which is what we are. And that's the yoga of it. That's the figuring out, that's the self-realization. Now I know what the material world is, so I know what is not. And I think, I joined the men's group yesterday, and I was a great group. I encourage men. We deal with men issues. What are men issues? Oh, we deal with all the stuff that men suffer with: their minds, their rage, their anger, their sexuality, their fidelity, their, dealing with the material world.
It sounds like an interesting group. Maybe I ought to get in on this.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. But the beautiful thing is, you start to study what you're not in your. See, that's the thing in Bhakti. We already have what we are, and therefore, when we hear about like I'm filled with rage and anger and resentment, we know that's not us. That's not the nature of our self or our soul. Right. That is a material rage. That's material frustration. These are things that are keeping us in the illusion that I'm the machine. Mm-hmm. So we start to notice what we are, and then from there we can start to see what I am not.
It's kind of like, so in other words, if I'm experiencing anger, depression, something like that, it's like, oh, my engine's not functioning smoothly right now.
It separates you, the pure jiva, the pure spirit soul, from these from these things like sort of based on the ego, based on a false identity of the self. And and it's woven right into our language. When people say, hey, man, I'm only human. You're not. You're actually not human. It's interesting to think of it like that. You're not a human. You are a transcendental spirit soul. And we have to stop using that type of language, because when you say things like I'm only human, you limit yourself to the human vehicle. You're actually way above the car. You're not even of this car. You're just sort of temporarily wearing this suit. And in Bhakti, it almost asks us to rise above that human condition to something much higher than that.
To our real condition, which is underneath it all along, right?
Which is always there.
And that's the 25th element. I listed 24. Those are material elements. Some of them are, you could say, gross or tangible, like earth, water, fire, air, ether, the senses, etc. Some of them are more subtle, like the mind and the ego and the intellect. But then the 25th element is the most subtle of all. And that's called Purusha, or the self, the soul, the enjoyer. That just like someone gets in that car, like, I don't know if you're like this, right? You got your truck, right?
Yeah.
But do you get off on it? Or are you into it? Like are you excited about cars and trucks and stuff like that?
I'm a little. I'm really into trucks.
Like I don't even have a driver's
I really want a
license.
Raptor.
Yeah.
I'm materialistic. I want a Raptor. It's like the really nice.
I don't know exactly what a Raptor is. Is that a big truck or something?
It's like an F-150, but it's got all the perks. Anyway, it's just. I don't care, truthfully,
but a lot of guys are like really into it.
No, some guys are really into their cars.
Yeah, and so they get all excited about that. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, the problem is if you're really into cars, it's like being really into your body. It's not evil. It's good. They're practical. They're useful. They're safe. I drive a new car. My wife drives a new car, and a big reason is I don't know how to fix cars when they break down, and I like the idea of newer cars are so much safer than the clunkers I used to drive around with. Were like our death traps, like from the old days growing up in cars. So it's not bad to have a car. It's that when you get really attached to it and you start extending, like the car is me, that's where problems, because I'm banking on that car as my joy, as an extension of myself, as my, almost as my God or one of my gods. And the problem with that is your whole world gets very, very shaken up when you lose that thing that we're attached to. But if you use it in God's service, in the service of God, then that very, then it's not, then it's a double negative. It crosses it out. It evens it out.
Yeah,
So
sure.
it's not when we hate stuff. You got to have stuff just to be in this world. But it's this, I'm not going to take shelter as the stuff is that actually gives me deep joy.
Well,
It might give
there's
me
the
a
key.
little, right? That's it. Did I
Well,
hit
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Is that the
It's
bing?
the bing right there. It's, in other words, this is not the sense of my this is not the source of my happiness. And if I identify it as the source of my happiness, then I'll be disappointed.
All right, then what is it? If it's not happiness, what is it?
It's from the perspective of truth. It's Krishna's energy, and I'm also Krishna's energy. And when we're all connected to that divine source, we're situated well, right? Then we're situated in our true nature, and we're content and happy and blissful. So if the 25th element, there's 24 material elements, and the 25th element is the Purusha, or the knower of the field, right? Those 24 elements are the field of material enjoyment. And I'm the person that tries, just like a guy tries to enjoy that truck, or that car, or whatever it is, gets excited. There's happiness to be found in that vehicle for me, right? When I sit in it, I feel a certain way, and I like that feeling, and I want more of that feeling.
Yeah, you know what? It's the pleasure of the ego, and the problem with living in the pleasure of the ego, it always causes pain, because there's somebody with a better than you. There's someone who's got the better car, or the better hair, or the better legs, or the better purse, or the better front lawn, whatever you're getting like off on in your life. And we do it with so many different things, gross things, subtle things, sattvic things. Look at my, perfectly wrinkle-free, home, hedges, my hedges. People get into their hedges up here, whatever it is. But when you start living in the ego, then you fall into this world of competition too. And there's people after who's got something much better than you, and it becomes very frustrating. And that's tied also with the gunas, with the rajas and the tamas. If we're sattvic, we don't care as much. But this whole yoga philosophy is to get us out of our pleasure from out there and get us a pleasure in here. This is sort of where we're going with these verses today.
Well, in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about different types of happiness. Right? This is a key.
Where you're going with this one?
You like this one? Everyone can draw a big circle around this one, because this is a takeaway tool. Okay.
Give me some tools. Give me a toolbox.
Okay. So he says, this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 30. Well, let's go back to 36. He says, "O Arjuna, now please hear from me about 3 kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress."
Isn't this weird that Krishna's saying this? Come on, we're about to go into battle, and you're going to tell me.
Really? You need to know.
This is the advice you're going to give me right now. I'm about to walk into a battle.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
He says, "That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but in the end is just like nectar."
Sweet nectar pot.
I knew you're going to go there. "And which awakens one to self-realization is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness." That's the sattvic happiness. Okay. It's like poison in the beginning. It's unpleasant in the beginning, but it's very pleasant. It moves towards something that's very pleasant.
Mara, what do we mean by poison in the beginning? Why is it poison in the beginning?
It's distasteful. It's hard. It's
like what? Like what's distasteful?
Like waking up early in the morning.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. So these things, these little disciplines in life, they're hard to do. You got to wake up. Okay, we're going to chant japa, right? We're going to control our senses, right? So yeah, it's a little distasteful. It's a little discomfortable. It's like poison at first. And then look at Kaustubha, so blissful, sitting there.
Nice.
He's sitting there, just swimming in a bathtub of nectar. like
It's
nectar.
your idea. Somehow we got to get out of this nectar. It's like sticky in here, man.
Big pot of syrup.
Okay. So that was text 37. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization. Right? It doesn't drag you into illusion. It awakens you to self. That's said to be happiness in the mode of goodness.
I mean, think of okay. This is the opposite. We're going to get to the opposite.
The flip side.
Okay, go.
Yeah.
Let's hear the flip side.
Text 38. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects. Okay. Boom. That just clears everything up right now. I think that's where happiness comes from, and which appears like nectar at first, but poison at the end, is said to be of the nature of passion. The Rajasic.
The third one.
Happiness. Third one is, and that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. Thomas.
What would you say? Drugs, like sort of like
Definitely.
heroin or hardcore addictive drugs.
Yeah, especially those. What are the two kind of drugs? There's the stimulants, and then there's the
Suppressants.
there's another word for it. What's the other one?
It's like uppers and downers, basically.
Yeah.
Whoa, she's just like throwing out the lingo, like opiates. Thank you. Jiva, opiates, right?
Right. Uppers.
So Mara, look at Mara. Yeah, I got your uppers, got downers. You know, it's like,
You want some?
you want some?
Hare Krishna, Mara.
What's going on in that private school?
Have you ever used Hare Krishna as a way of saying, "How dare you"? Have you ever said
Krishna.
Hare Krishna? I've done that a few times. I've got that done to me. People just looking at Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It's almost like it's like the subtitle would be like, "I'm so disgusted in you. I can't believe you said that."
That's so low class. Yeah.
You can use Hare Krishna for anything.
Yeah.
In India, sometimes they'll call you over, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I mean, basically, was come into my shop. Would you like to buy something? Hare Krishna. And they get you there and they go, Hare Krishna.
But are they say, or when you bargain for the price,
shoes.
When you bargain for the price for a low price, say Hare Krishna. But so any case,
so I just want to share.
Yeah.
So this is where something like an intoxicant would come in. It feels good, and then all of a sudden, these addictive things. I'm thinking about these recovery groups. These addictive things. It's like a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Slippery ice is one thing. You slip and you fall down. You get back up. Slippery slope is like you fall, and then you just get tumbled down this hill quickly, and you end up in a very dark place. And this is sort of things that are highly addictive. They consume your life. You go from like 0 to like 90 in 3 seconds, like, and then you don't even know where you are. It takes away all your intelligence, all your common sense. Sometimes you lose your family, your career in just a moment. And that's why there are these parameters in Bhakti of like, we don't go here. We're going to draw a circle around. We don't cross that line, because once you cross that line, these things are they're so highly appearing good in the beginning, and they just take us out so quick. It's what every parent like warns their kids about. Don't do this. Don't do that.
You know, people on the chat board are mentioning chips, like eating potato chips, right? But actually, I think that's more the Rajasic enjoyment than the Tamasic, right? Because like salty food is considered Rajasic, and you just keep eating more and more and more, and it's like nectar in the beginning, and how do you feel at the end? You know, after you consume that whole bag.
Yeah, I mean, Doritos. That was my thing when I was a little kid. Doritos. They're so delicious. Oh, Doritos. I hate them now, but as a kid, it was like, oh, this is so good. After the fourth one, you're like, I'm a little full. After the fifth one, I'm sick.
But you're still
the seventh one, you cannot stop eating those things. It's like good, and then next thing, but you're miserable, and you still can't stop. That's like the essence of addiction. It's ruining my life. It's making me miserable. It's not based in any common sense. It feels good for a moment, and I suffer tremendously.
Right.
And
So
we've
now
all
let's
got it in some degree or another, unless you control the senses and the mind.
Yeah. Well, now let's tie this back. Now let's go back to the car, right? So if I think that my happiness is coming from this car, then I'm an illusion. It'll be like nectar in the beginning. It'll be like poison in the end. But if I see that all of this equipment is something that I can use in this deeper vision of who I am in connection to God, then I'm not trying to enjoy that truck separately, but I'm tying it all in. Well, then that's the reality. Right?
Can I share something?
No, this is, I'm building towards a point now. So now what you do is you hold that. You see, you just hold that for a little bit. Right? There you go. You just hold that.
Work it.
So now if we go back to what we were talking about, that there's the 25th element is us. We're the Purusha. We're in a body and moving through a world made out of 24 other material elements, right?
Yeah.
And that's just this equipment that we're given. Now, there's something in this purport that's really really appropriate to read right now. Are you going to be able to hold on to this, Raghunath, or do you want to let it out now, and then we'll get to this commentary? Want to let it out? Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So I'm looking, it's, when I got into Bhakti, this is a little humiliating, but I got into Bhakti. When I got into Bhakti, I was 22. And when I was 22, I see what we're talking about is living in the ego and finding pleasure from the ego. And it sounds like, yeah, well, what's the big deal? Well, that's what monk life was. And in monk life is they strip away anything a part of your ego, meaning you got some good looking hair. We're going to take away all your hair.
Cool clothes.
Dress nice. You're going to get rid of all your clothes. You're going to look just like the next guy next to you and the guy next to you. There's no more like individual fashion. That's no longer part of you.
Important job.
You got a job, you're going to give up your job. You got a nice car, give it to the temple, stuff like that. You just they like strip you down. This is not just Krishnas. This is any monastic movement. You get rid of anything that's part of your ego externally. And so you're basically walking in there like with nothing, and there's nothing to enjoy. You can't say, hey, let's go to the movies tonight. Hey, let's go out to dinner tonight. Hey, nothing is there. You strip it down, and there's nothing sort of to take shelter in. And so I remember being at that point, and I'm wearing a dhoti, I'm wearing a kurta, I have no hair. It was funny because I had bleached blonde hair. And so when I shaved, and it was sort of short, so I just had a big white veggie burger on top of my head. That was my Sika. But I was very attached. It's so stupid, isn't it? To my sneakers. Because everybody, all of us were all into sneakers back then in the 80s.
Was that AJ's or something like that?
Some high toppy type of whatever. And I can't even remember what they were. I was so stupid, but I was like, and so you know what I did? I moved to a farm. I moved to Gitanagari in Pennsylvania. And I was like, you know what? I'm sitting on this farm. No one even gives a crap. No one's even noticing me or caring. Why am I so damn attached to these sneakers? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the mall. There's a mall in Harrisburg. And I'm just going to buy the crappiest sneakers they make. The crappiest, now I don't know if you remember what it was like in junior high school. Like if you wore crappy sneakers, you were made fun of, humiliated. It's horrible. Cultured people are listening to the show, like Maitreyi, who's from a high class Chennai family. She's like, what are they talking about? Making fun of people for their sneakers? Yes, that's how we grow up. You wore the wrong jeans, the wrong sneakers. You were mocked. Anyone who grew up in American high school knows what I'm talking about. Can you raise your hand if you know what I'm talking about? Just put up your hand out there. Yeah, thank you. It was humiliating. Got the wrong jeans on, didn't have the Levi's. It was horrible. So anyway, I finally said, I'm going to trade in these sneakers. I went to the mall and was about to buy these cheapo sneakers. I put them on, I looked down, and I just thought, I can't do these. I cannot wear these cheap. I was so I was still living in the ego of my sneakers. No one was looking at me. I'm in a farm in the middle of nowhere, America, Pennsylvania, and I still could not let go of my ego in those sneakers. It's a failure story if you don't want to know the truth. It wasn't,
Okay.
It's not like there's no hero's journey here. I failed. I kept the cool sneakers and went back to that farm. That's my story. I was so invested in those sneakers are part of me. Isn't that sad?
It's okay, Raghunath. It's a small thing. It's a small thing.
But the idea is we let everything go. So there's nothing to take shelter of.
All right.
Except whatever that particular monastic path of meditation is.
Okay.
That's
Now,
story. That's my
okay.
story.
Thank you for sharing that story, Raghunath.
Mara, come on, give me something, Mara. She's just like, next.
Okay. Now let's dip into the commentary, Prabhupada's commentary. You ready, Raghunath?
Yes.
And now this is going back again to the verse which was saying there's all these different elements. There's the elements, the senses, the mind, the modes of nature, and they all need to be assembled, right? Now, Prabhupada says this, the different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different parts of motor cars, manufactured by assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1861. You know that one, Raghunath?
1861. Give me a hint.
Well, this car thing is like the hint.
Give me the Sanskrit word hint. I mean,
you want me to give you the first word?
yeah, the first Sanskrit word.
Ishwar,
I don't know.
Sarva,
I don't know.
Bhutanam.
Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. No?
Hrideshwar, yeah, you got the part that I just gave you. Hrideshwar Juna Tishtati.
Junatishtati. Brahmanya Sarva Kuteshu.
Bhutani.
Bhutani. I don't have it.
Yantra Rutani Maya. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great verse.
Yeah.
Yantra, that's the yes.
Yantra, it's a machine.
Seated on a machine made up of material nature.
Yeah.
The living entities in this material world.
That Krishna is situated in the heart of everyone.
Yeah.
Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy.
Mara, learn this verse. This is a great verse, 1861.
1861. Mara, tomorrow, we want to hear that one. Okay, so he says, this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1861. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature, just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent material scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of the material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being. Now listen to this. And by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will to lord it over the material nature.
We're given a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities, namely us, to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, which is the material nature.
Incredible, huh? You know, if you get your Jyotish or your Vedic astrology done, you'll realize how little freedom we have. We just have a little bit of freedom. It's so much of it is predestined. And we're thinking, yeah, because I'm doing it, that's why I got this. And because of my good intellect and my good acumen and my good, my incredible intelligence, now I have the success. It's all laid out already. We have a tiny little bit of freedom. And in that freedom, we can make some choices. And to the degree that we're sattvic, we have a little bit more freedom. To the degree that we're tamasic, right? If you're addicted to anything, Doritos or heroin, you've lost your free will. It's taken away your free will. In the whole yoga
and it
system,
leads to even more control to like animal body, where you even get less. right?
Yeah, I mean, all I know is if I want my dog to come here right now, he's sleeping upstairs. All I got to go is like that. That means he's about to get fed, and he'll be like, whoa, 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 and he'll be banging at that door because he's so drawn by the nose that anything he sniffs and wants to eat and consume, he will be there in a second. Why? Because he's led by his senses, his sense to put something in his mouth. So if anything, the tongue, the belly, the genitals, if we are owned by them, we've lost that type of freedom. Something like drugs. I mean, you can offer a heroin addict like an organic salad. They don't want an organic salad. If they're, they want drugs. You're offering them something that's actually good and healthy and nourishing. They don't want it because they want the very thing that's going to ruin their life. So when you're addicted to things, that type of intelligence is gone, and you're just living in the impulse. The yoga system, which is about regulating the senses, you're forced to go inside for that freedom. And therefore, when an option comes, hey, you want some heroin? You think, you breathe. No, I don't want any. That's giving you a little bit more freedom. Sattvic living loosens the noose of material existence. Loosens sort of like you have a little bit, you're less bound by those the puppet master of the puppet, like that, Mara? Puppet master, material energy moving you around. The gunas will move us around, and the rajas and tamas more so. Then we're really helpless.
So we wanted illusion, and therefore Lord Vishnu was creating the material elements, the senses, the sense objects, the mind, the false ego, which we need to fully enter into the illusion. And all of this is provided just to facilitate our illusion. Okay.
You're rolling.
Well, no, I was going to move on, but if you want to.
I just wanted to say, like, it might even be in your chart. Like, you're going to have money. You're going to have success. You're going to have fame. Like, I was famous when I was 19. That was in my chart. That wasn't because I worked so hard. My endeavor had something to do with it, but that popularity was in my astrological chart. If you look at me and Kaustubha's chart, it's very interesting where we are astrologically right now. It's everything that's happening right now in our life. And it's all, and if you have some heartache, if you have some beauty, if you have some renunciation, like you're meant to live very simply, whatever it is, it's already there in your chart. Now, what you do with that is going to make you God conscious or materialist. If you have great wealth, but you do materialistic things with it, you get implicated even more within that. If you have great wealth and you do something that's a little more selfless and more divine with that wealth, there's very wealthy people who do divine things with their wealth. So what you do with it, this is enhancing your future karma or crippling you in ways we don't even see. The same thing is with our day-to-day. We get some heartbreak, we get some loss, we get some major reversal. What are we going to do with that? What are we going to take shelter in? And these are all creating tomorrow. Our choices today create our tomorrow. This is reincarnation in the micro. There's the macro, what I've done lifetimes ago have created my birth, getting born, where I got born with my particular family. But then in the that's the macro, right? Yeah, in the micro, there is my choices, my thoughts, what I put in my ears today, what I put in my mouth today. It's going to help me tomorrow. And good choices tend to fuel better good choices, right? Like you start working out. I feel good working out. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to eat healthy again. So they spiral, they snowball into better and better. In the same way, your poor choices, they feed more poor choices. And that's why Prabhupada sometimes uses this word, or is it the Gita itself uses that word, nitya bandha. People, they make these choices, they're like eternally bound almost. It's as if eternally, because bad choices feed those bad choices. And then all of a sudden you just can't make a good choice. Then you're really dominated by Rajas and Tamas. And then by the mercy of Nancy Rothman and Jiva, the Bhakti Recovery Group, they give us an access point to spiritual life.
We've got 6 Bhakti Recovery groups every week now.
It's incredible.
Meetings,
And Bhakti
yeah.
Ed, who's a great soul too.
All right.
You
Okay.
know what's beautiful, Kaustubha? You know what's
Tell
very
me.
beautiful about these guys is it's not saying we don't have issues. We're all dented. It's everybody's got issues. It's admitting your issues and saying, you know what? I got issues. And I'm going to work through these issues because I want to raise the bar. I want to change myself. It's okay. I have issues, but I'm not going to let those issues hold me back. And that's what's beautiful. And that's why everybody's here at 5 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now let's wrap up this chapter. You ready?
Yeah.
So now what has been described is that all the ingredients for the soul to enter into a body with all the equipment that it needs to drive the car of the body around and try to enjoy the material atmosphere separately, like a child is being said earlier. All those ingredients are there within the universe, and now Vishnu lies down within the entire universe. And just like we are the soul of our own body, right? Like our body is just like dead ingredients without the soul in it.
Right.
So Vishnu becomes the soul of the entire universe and makes it come alive.
Very interesting.
Yes. Yes. So that's what's going to be explained here in these last verses of this chapter. And different analogies will be used, kind of metaphors for how, like it'll say that 3 different metaphors will come up. One, and they're going to say that this material creation is the body of Lord Vishnu. One metaphor is going to say that there are Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, that there are 4 different categories of psychologies that each play their social roles. So in one sense, the psychological or social variety, the varieties of psychologies and how they apply to social life, that they represent the body. One category is the head, one category is the feet. We'll read that. Then it's going to say that the 14 planetary systems, right? That the Vedic cosmology says there's 14 levels of planets within the universe, and it says that those are his body. Certain planets are his feet, certain planets are the head, like that.
It's like a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. And then a third metaphor is almost the same as that one. You can take those, instead of counting as 14, you could say there's the upper, the middle, and the lower. But the idea with those metaphors, and this is the key, because a lot of people, when they say, when I believe in God, I believe nature is God.
Yeah, the ocean.
The ocean,
The ocean
mountains,
is my God.
the sun, yeah, like all that kind of stuff. And this
The
is
forest,
kind of saying,
the forest is my God.
This is kind of saying, like, there's more to it than that. But if that's the level that you're comfortable approaching on, then you can conceive of it that way. But when we say that the upper planetary systems are his head and the lower planetary systems are his feet, just like our soul is in our body and our consciousness spreads to the top of our head down to the bottom of our feet. We have an awareness that's spread throughout the entire body. And so these metaphors are showing that Vishnu is the soul of the universe and that his consciousness is spread throughout the entire universe. There's not a spot, there's not a speck, there's not an atom that his consciousness doesn't penetrate. That's really the idea. Okay? So why don't we just read right through these? Now we can burn. Raghunath.
Let's burn.
Okay.
Burn, burn, yes, you're gonna burn.
What's that one? I don't know that
I
one.
think it's Rage Against the Machine.
Okay. There you go. Burn, baby, burn.
I don't know. Okay. What number are we on there?
33.
33. Thus, when all these became assembled by force of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and the secondary causes of creation.
Primary, these are the different levels of Lord Vishnu. First, he creates the entire material realm and unlimited universes within that cloud. And then the secondary is that he enters in as the second Vishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, within each one of those universes.
We have living cells in our body that are being created, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, we have our body itself being created, other bodies, tree bodies, fern bodies, animal bodies. Then there's the earth itself. Then there's the entire unit. This is all happening in different concentric circles.
Macro, micro, Fibonacci.
Macro, micro, Fibonacci. This is all going on. If it's happening within my own body And if it's happening with everything I see, what makes me think it's not happening in a massive way as well? The yogis
These are
say
clues.
it is happening.
Yeah.
It is. You
These
just
are
can't see it.
clues.
We're giving you some insight here. Hear me. Hear me.
Okay, look. Keep going. Burn, baby, burn.
Thus, all these became assembled by the force of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. Thus, all of the universes remained thousands of aeons. What's an aeon, Mary?
It's an eon. That's a British way of saying eon.
Okay. What is an eon?
A very, very long amount of time.
Okay.
An indefinite amount, a huge amount of time.
Okay. Thousands of eons within the water, the causal ocean. The Lord of the living entity, living beings, entering in each of them, caused them to be fully animated.
There you go.
We are dead bodies, Prabhu. We are dead bodies. And then
well, we're not, but we're in dead bodies, right?
We're in a carcass.
Okay.
And then the soul enters, and then we appear animated. We appear alive. It's hard to believe. Have you ever seen a dead body?
Yeah.
Like in India or in like a funeral in America?
I've never been to a funeral in America. I've seen bodies burning in India. I've seen people killed I've seen people killed like in America, like in New York. But
You saw someone killed? Oh yeah.
I've talked about that on the show before.
Yeah, that's right. The story. Mara's like, yeah.
And I think I've seen dead people on the streets in New York, with ambulance people.
What neighborhood do you live in?
Well, come on, man. People die, New York's a little bit more like India like that, where like it's in your face,
It's in your face a little bit. Yeah. I mean, it's so weird to see a dead face because it's like your face, but it's dead.
We're not going to get through this.
All right, let's go. Thus, all the universes remain 34. Thus, all the universes remain thousands of eons within the water of the causal ocean, and the Lord of the living beings entering into each of them caused them to be fully animated. The Lord, Mahavishnu, although lying on the causal ocean, came out of it, and dividing himself as Hiranyagarbha, he entered into each universe and assumed the Virat Rupa, the universal form, with thousands of legs, arms, mouths, heads, etc. That's the famous picture, right, of the universal Vishnu.
Yeah, and this is all leading into the next chapter, which is Purusha Shukta confirmed, and we'll get into that later. But just understand, it said this. The previous verse mentions primary and secondary levels of creation. The Lord, so this verse is saying the Lord Mahavishnu. This is the primary creator. He's lying down in the causal ocean. Unlimited universes are coming out of him. Then, as Hiranyagarbha, which is another name for Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he enters into each universe and it assumes the form of that universe. It says legs, arms, mouth, heads, etc. It just means that all of that energy, his consciousness is spread through it. Okay.
I want to get Rabindra Swarup on the show.
Okay, we'll do that.
He'll explain this stuff easily.
You're not satisfied with my explanation.
No, I am very satisfied. The baking analogy, very good. The baking, you and Mara.
Okay. All right.
Great philosophers imagine that the complete planetary systems in the universe are displays of different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord. It's like a way to see it.
It's a way to see it, exactly.
To see it.
This is what Prabhupada says in the commentary to this. He says, although the universal form as imagined by great philosophers is one of the features of the Lord, it is more or less imaginary. We're kind of conceiving of it that way. He says,
it's very great. God is very great. So we're looking at the great things and saying, this is God.
And especially this. And he says, it is said that the 7 upper planetary systems are situated above the waist of the universal form, whereas the lower planetary systems are situated below his waist. Those are the verses that are coming up. Now, this is what he says. He says, the idea impressed herein, this is what we're meant to understand. The idea impressed herein is that the Supreme Lord is conscious of every part of his body. And nowhere in the creation is there anything beyond his control. Just like I can control my fingers, I can control my toes, right? So he accepts this form of the universe. His consciousness is spread throughout the universe. Okay.
Right. 37. The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas, the warriors, his arms, the Vaishyas, his thighs, the shopkeepers, and the Sudras are born of his legs. The lower planetary systems, up to the limit of the earthly stratum, are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary systems, beginning with Bhuvar Loka, are situated in his navel. And still the higher planetary systems occupied by the demigods and highly cultured sages and saints are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord. From the forefront of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems named Janaloka and Tapaloka. And whereas Satyaloka, the topmost planet, so those are higher planets, the
Very high.
planets of Tapasvis, where great renunciates like go and they live internally, and they have there's special planets for them. Satyaloka, these higher, where everything's in goodness and truth. And then the highest, the topmost planet is, Satyaloka, the topmost planet, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal.
Beyond this is the spiritual realm.
Janaloka, Tapaloka. It's so interesting, huh?
It is.
Someone said this to Prabhupada once. They said, where does Christ go when he dies? And they said, or no, Christians go to Christ's planet. Have you heard that quote?
I heard something like that.
Christians.
But it's such a big topic, and we're already over time.
It's a good planet. It's a good.
Like
Okay, sorry,
we're
going over time. Okay, let me just finish this, and we're going to get out of here. My dear son Narada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated in the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated in the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talatala, on the shanks. The fifth, the Mahatala, on the ankles. And the sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Patala. These are all lower planetary systems on the soles of the feet.
Worked
Thus,
its way
the
down.
Virat. Sorry, say again.
It just worked his way down from the waist.
Acha. Thus, the Virat form of the Lord is full of all planetary systems.
Universal form.
Others may divide the whole planetary system into 3 divisions, namely lower planetary systems on the legs up to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems of Svarloka from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality. That's it.
Of
That's
Supreme
it.
Just says Supreme Personality.
It just says
right?
Supreme Personality. Oops, there we go. There we go. We finished the chapter.
All right.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks to Vegan Trucker. Thanks for Richard
Trucks.
O, my new buddy. Thanks to all our friends here who join us on Zoom on a regular basis. And if you'd like to join Zoom, if you're one of the many thousands of people listening out there on Apple Podcasts, etc., and you'd like to join us live on Zoom and wake up early and have us be part of your morning breakfast plan, contact Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Also, if you're listening and you haven't done this yesterday, it means a lot to us if you go to Apple Podcasts and write us a little review and tell us your story, how you got here, how you stumbled across the show. Everybody's journey home story is very interesting. If you want to be honest, sometimes honesty helps, makes the story more interesting. Just like Mohan was very honest today and told us he has 100 pairs of sneakers. He's one of those crazy hardcore sneaker collector guys.
Really, for real? 1,000?
10,000 sneakers. There's some people who are really into sneakers. It wasn't just me. It's a thing. And then it got weirder. It got crazier. After me, it goes crazier. Then we started multiple pairs.